Welcome back to the Lachlan in Discussion podcast. Today's episode we'll be discussing the controversy behind Jojo Rabbit with Professor Stewart. We would be deliberating texts that challenge assumptions about humanity. I'm delighted to be joined today by Sydney University's top historian, Professor Baxter Stewart.
I'm not entirely sure about that, but if we are looking at the positives, I'm very excited to be here today to discuss my all-time favourite film, Taiki Waititi's Jojo Rabbit, filmed in 2019.
So Baxter, for the viewers that haven't yet seen Jojo Rabbit, do you think you could give us a summary of what the film is all about?
Sure, if you haven't watched this dramatic comedy, I very much suggest that you do watch it in the future. It is about a young German boy, the titular character Jojo, living in an oppressive world. He is surrounded by killing and propaganda on a regular basis.
So it sounds like the film took a courageous step as it seeks to present the humorous side of the war through satire and dramatic irony through the protagonist, Jojo Rabbit. The movie is an adaptation of the novel Caging Skies by Christian Lewins. Anyway, I'm blabbering on a bit. So let's waste no time and get straight into it. Now, let me throw you a curveball.
Let's hear it.
Immediately, if you don't mind.
Let's go, come on.
The movie evidently being such a major contradiction within society and our historical perspectives of Hitler and the oppressive regime. From your experience, do you feel the film manifests true human nature, and if so, how? Let that sink in for a minute.
Well, when discussing human nature, we immediately have to point out that how everyone is unique in their own ways. Human nature, in my opinion, is how we are as humans. It's how we react to different action on life choices. For example, Waititi uses dark humour to depict the bigger picture of the film, creating a daring contrast between the horrific nature of war. This is evident in the long shot, which conveys the satire of children launching a missile seen towards the end of the film. As I discussed before, the director uses dark premises in the innocence of the naivety of the children through a comedic theme to brighten up the audience's perspective of the ghastly time in the past.
Now, how does YTT use human experiences to convey contradiction, comedy, and the social construct of the German war period?
Well, collective experiences force Jojo to become something he isn't when he's forced on the politics and the society that if you're a German boy or a German in general, that you're automatically represented what the swastika stands for and the Hitler beliefs. This is seen when the German corporals urge Jojo to kill a rabbit to test his bravery and ultimately his belief system. The rabbit's symbolism Jojo and presumably other German boys. Their fear of war can be shown in Jojo's body language, crouched up and shaking in panic, with a ghastly contrast in the background to depict the emotion of panic.
So, when looking at Jojo individually throughout the film, it's clear that the people around him try to shape who he is and who they want him to become.
Yeah. Well, I believe social neglect is an example of collective experience portrayed vastly in the film, especially through Jojo, as he is a young vulnerable boy warped up in a society where he is an anomaly. As he is compassionate and caring, which is the opposite to his stereotype, this is evident when he is giving the Jewish girl vivid colours to lighten up the gloomy enclosed environment, which is breaking the fourth wall, and ultimately providing her optimism for the future.
Let's talk about the controversy of the film. And who better to start off with than the role that Hitler plays? Because obviously, the Hitler illusion is definitely a unique figure throughout the film. What I mostly find fascinating about this role is how it's portrayed. YTT uses vivid juxtaposition to represent one of the most hated people in history.
Yeah, that's very true. The dictator is depicted as a humorous and kind role model in the eyes of a young German child, as they have been brought up to think that he is some kind of demigod. Hitler and Jojo are perceived as similar due to their cultural background, but we can all grasp a man who has the heart to kill millions compared to a boy who can't kill a rabbit, showing the audience that they are complete antitheses.
Wow, I never looked at it from such a deep perspective. So how do you believe YTT uses human contradictions And how do you think it helps Waititi achieve the outcome of the film that he so greatly did?
Well, that's a great question. Human contradiction is present in society whether you like it or not. Human contradiction is the inconsistent action of saying something and then doing the complete opposite. Evident in Jojo Rabbit, Hitler tries to come across as a father figure, when in reality, he is collectively convincing Jojo to take part in juvenile behaviour, such as associating his daily life with propaganda and weaponry. Evident in the low-angle shot of Jojo being dehumanised because of his fear of killing.
Yes, very great point you raised there. How we comprehend emotion is unique to all. And the assumption that Waititi unintentionally depicts to the audience that World War II was colourful and humorous, and a repulsive figure can be interpreted as comedic. For example, when Hitler uses paradoxical language to paint the picture in Jojo's head that worshipping him in a phrase that would be seen in today's society as confrontational, in a fascist tone.
This is seen as very provocative, and before we criticise Waititi's intention of the film, we have to look at all perspectives. This article goes into detail to a point of view standpoint from a Jewish man who lived through the genocide, and his thoughts consisted of hatred. Jerry Lewis, the Jewish man, found it confronting how the director did not highlight in detail the individual's hardships of growing up Jewish. In his own words, there's a difference between confronting evil and actually dismantling its assumptions.
We've discussed a lot about Jojo Rabbit, the protagonist going into detail on his perspective of the parody, but what I found unique is the mother character, who is anti-stereotypical to your typical German mother.
Yeah, well, the mother figure plays a pivotal role in the film. Besides the point that she's a protagonist mother, she is ultimately an empathetic character that challenges the social construct. By using her intellectual perspectives of the world, she sees beyond the propaganda to the truth that Jewish people are humans and should be treated as flora and fauna. This is evident in the point of view shot where Jojo finds his mother working with the resistance. Her collective experience of losing her husband to the war opens her eyes to the truth of humanity. Waititi portrays the mother as an anomaly, who not only breaks the fourth wall of stereotypes and challenges the audience view of German women who are supposedly supposed to be nursing their child and putting food on the table, or the belief that all Germans hate Jews. By ultimately feeding the refugeeing the Jewish girl Elsa, this is grasped in the mid-shot, conveying a dark contrast of colour, symbolising isolation from society, to a brighter printement of colour reflecting their joy, emotion, to be sharing thoughts.
Some very unique points he raised there. And it's clear that Waititi develops this character to be specifically designed not only to challenge the paradox, but to prepare Jojo for the physical and mental hurdles that he will face when overcoming conflict, by trying to collectively modify his persona about his desired focus towards political and military warfare, rather than living his life as what he really is, just a boy. It's inimitable how Waititi uses common flaws in our society as a means of symbolism. For joy or fear in a past society, dancing is a significant characteristic that we have to analyse.
Agreed. Instead of primarily focusing on the hardships, the director does incorporate subtle details of elation. When Jojo asks Elsa what she will do when it's all over, Elsa confidently responds with, "I will dance." The body language of dance represents the inconsistency of chartoization from both Jojo and Elsa, as they are both lost in society and aren't considered normal.
That's why the ending scene, when the blissful diegetic sound is being played with ongoing cheers from the resistance, followed up by a brightly themed background, is so significant. It details that the two characters have collectively experienced hope for the first time, and have broken free from the anomaly character that they're both so heavily portrayed as. Special thank you to Baxter for joining the Lachlan Discussion podcast. I really appreciate you seeing your perspective on this very debatable film in society today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on here. I had a great time.
If you're new to the podcast, make sure you hit that thumbs up and comment on what film we should analyse next.